There exists a discipline so powerful that those who practice it become unshakable forces of nature. Relentless, consistent, seemingly immune to the chaos that stops everyone else. Kyoto, 1590. A samurai watches a Zen monk perform the same tea ceremony he has performed every morning for 40 years. The same movements, the same precision, the same total presence. No variation, no shortcuts, no days off. The samurai asks, "Master, does it not bore you to do the exact same thing every single day?" The monk looks up, genuinely confused by the question. "Bore me? I have spent 40 years learning how to boil water properly. I am not yet finished." This is the moment the samurai understands something that will transform his training forever. Discipline is not what you do when you feel motivated. Discipline is what remains when motivation is gone, when excitement fades, when circumstances turn hostile. The Zen masters discovered a system, not of willpower or forcing yourself, but of building such elegant consistency that discipline becomes effortless. They called it shugyō, austere training, the art of making right action as natural as breathing. And modern neuroscience is now confirming what these monks knew centuries ago. The brain can be trained to make discipline the path of least resistance, not the path of greatest effort. Today, you will learn the complete Zen habit system, the exact principles that allowed monks to maintain practices for decades without wavering, that enabled samurai to train daily regardless of conditions, that created human beings who simply do not stop. Before we begin, subscribe if you want ancient systems that transform inconsistency into unstoppable momentum. And comment, what habit have you failed to maintain despite knowing its importance? Osaka, 1585. A young samurai named Miyamoto Musashi watches his fellow warriors. They train intensely for a few weeks. Then enthusiasm fades. Training becomes sporadic. Eventually, it stops entirely. He sees this pattern everywhere. New Year resolutions, ambitious commitments, powerful declarations, all ending the same way, initial intensity followed by gradual decline into nothing. Musashi himself experiences this cycle repeatedly. He commits to daily sword practice at dawn. The first week is exhilarating, second week still strong, third week he misses a day because of rain, then another because he stayed up late. Then he stops entirely, telling himself he will restart when conditions are better. This is not lack of desire. Musashi desperately wants to become a master swordsman. This is not lack of discipline. He can force himself through difficult training when motivated. This is something else, something he cannot articulate until a Zen master named Takuan Soho shows him what he is missing. Takuan does not teach swordsmanship. He teaches something deeper, the architecture of sustainable action. He tells Musashi, "You fail not because you lack strength. You fail because you rely on strength. Willpower is a muscle. It fatigues. What you need is a system that requires no willpower at all." This statement makes no sense to Musashi. How can you have discipline without willpower? That is like saying you can have rain without water. But Takuan teaches him a method that will eventually transform Musashi into one of history's most formidable warriors. A man who would win 61 duels without losing once, who would train daily for 50 years without interruption. The method was not about willpower, it was about design. Takuan's first teaching seems almost insulting in its simplicity. Start so small that failure is impossible. Musashi wants to train for 2 hours every morning. Takuan tells him, "No, you will train for 2 minutes." 2 minutes? That is nothing. That is not training. Exactly, Takuan replies. 2 minutes cannot fail. 2 minutes requires no willpower. 2 minutes happens even on your worst day. This violates everything Musashi believes about discipline. Real training requires suffering, pushing through resistance, forcing yourself beyond comfort. 2 minutes feels like surrender, like giving up before starting. But Takuan explains the psychology. Your mind resists the 2-hour commitment. The moment you think about it, you feel the burden. Your brain calculates the cost, time, energy, discomfort, and creates resistance. This resistance is what you call lacking motivation. But 2 minutes? Your brain does not resist 2 minutes. The cost is negligible. No excuse works against 2 minutes. I am tired. You can be tired for 2 minutes. I am busy. You can find 2 minutes. The weather is bad. 2 minutes does not care. The genius is this. Once you start, you often continue. The barrier is not the activity itself. It is starting the activity. 2 minutes breaks through the barrier without triggering resistance. Stanford University research in 2017 examined what psychologists call implementation friction, the psychological resistance to beginning a task. Dr. B.J. Fogg's Behavior Design Lab found that resistance scales exponentially with the perceived size of the commitment. A 2-hour workout commitment generates approximately 14 times more psychological resistance than a 2-minute commitment, even though the actual first 2 minutes are identical. The brain resists the anticipated burden, not the immediate action. But once in motion, continuation requires far less activation energy than initiation. Fogg's research showed that 71% of people who committed to minimal viable actions, 2 to 5 minutes, naturally extended the activity beyond their minimum once they started. The minimum is not the goal, it is the gateway. Takuan understood this centuries before psychology could measure it. Make the commitment so small that your mind cannot manufacture excuses. Then let momentum carry you further. Musashi begins with 2 minutes of sword practice each dawn. After 3 weeks, Takuan observes him and asks, "How many days have you trained?" 21 days straight, master. And yesterday when it rained heavily and you felt ill, you still trained? Yes, 2 minutes as you instructed. Good. Now you understand the second principle, daily invariance. The practice happens every day, regardless of conditions, mood, or circumstances. No exceptions. This principle seems obvious, but is actually where most habit systems fail. People build in exceptions. I will train every day, except when I travel, or when I am sick, or when something important comes up. These exceptions feel reasonable, but they are poison. Takuan explains. Every exception you create is a decision you must make, and every decision costs energy. Each morning, you must evaluate. Do today's conditions warrant the exception? This evaluation itself is resistance. But without exceptions, the commitment becomes unreasonable. What if I am truly unable to practice? Then you practice for 30 seconds, or 10 seconds, or you perform a single sword draw. The duration can flex, the daily occurrence cannot. This distinction is critical. Flexibility in how you practice. Zero flexibility in whether you practice. Why? Because the habit is not the practice itself. The habit is the daily appearance at practice. Once that is unbreakable, everything else becomes negotiable. University of Southern California research in 2019 studied habit formation durability, which habits persist and which collapse. Dr. Wendy Wood's team tracked 1,218 people across 18 months, monitoring various habit-building approaches. The finding, habits with built-in exceptions, showed a 73% failure rate within 6 months. Habits with daily invariance showed only an 11% failure rate. The reason, exception-based habits require daily negotiation. The brain must decide each day whether conditions warrant practicing. This decision fatigue accumulates until the habit collapses. But invariant habits become identity. This is what I do, every day, period. No negotiation means no decision means no depletion. Takuan taught, the samurai who decides each morning whether to train is not a samurai. He is someone who sometimes trains, but the samurai who appears for training like the sun appears at dawn. This is a samurai. The practice has become his nature. After 3 months of daily 2-minute practice, Musashi naturally extends most sessions to 30 or 40 minutes. The habit is established, but Takuan notices something else. You train in different locations, sometimes outside, sometimes in the dojo, sometimes in your quarters. This is a mistake. Musashi is confused. Does location matter if the practice occurs? Watch, Takuan says. He takes Musashi to the monastery kitchen. This is where I prepare tea every morning, only here, never anywhere else. Now when I walk into this space, something happens in my body before I consciously think. My hands know the movements. My mind enters the state. The environment itself triggers the practice. This is environmental elimination, removing all friction between location and action. When you practice in the same place at the same time every day, neurological associations form. The environment becomes a cue that initiates the behavior automatically. You do not need to decide to practice. You walk into the space and the practice begins. But when you practice in varying locations, you must overcome initiation resistance every time. Each new environment requires conscious effort to begin. Takuan's tea preparation is his example. 40 years in the same space at the same time. He walks into that corner of the monastery and his body moves into the ritual automatically. No thought required. The environment does the work. Princeton neuroscience research in 2020 examined what they termed contextual automaticity, how environmental consistency reduces cognitive load for habitual behaviors. Using fMRI imaging, Dr. Sabine Kastner's team measured brain activation during habit execution in consistent versus varying environments. In consistent environments, habit execution showed minimal prefrontal cortex activation, the region responsible for conscious decision-making. The behavior was running largely on autopilot, managed by the basal ganglia. In varying environments, each instance required significant prefrontal activation, consciously initiating the behavior, overcoming context-switching costs. The same habit, dramatically different cognitive demands. Dr. Kastner noted, environmental consistency is not just about convenience. It is about offloading the habit from conscious control to automatic execution. This frees mental resources for other tasks, while ensuring the habit continues regardless of willpower levels. Musashi implements this immediately. He designates one specific location for morning practice, same spot, same time, daily. Within 2 months, he notices something remarkable. Walking toward that location, his mind enters practice mode before he even picks up his sword. The environment prepares him. The practice begins before the practice begins. 6 months into daily practice, Musashi faces a new challenge. The 2-minute minimum is effortless now. Most days he practices for an hour or more, but Takuan observes that the practice has become routine, smooth, comfortable, but no longer pushing boundaries. You have built consistency, Takuan tells him. Now you must build intensity, but carefully. Dance. He introduces the principle of progressive resistance. Once the habit is unbreakable, gradually increase difficulty, but only one variable at a time, and only when the current level feels effortless. Do not add difficulty because you feel you should. Add difficulty when the current practice no longer challenges you. Your body will tell you when it is ready. For Musashi, this means once his hour of basic sword drills feels smooth, he adds a single advanced technique. He practices until this expanded routine feels smooth. Then he adds another element. The progression is slow, incremental, but it is sustainable, and crucially, it never threatens the daily invariance. Even when adding difficulty, the minimum commitment remains 2 minutes. On your worst day, Takuan reminds him, you always return to the minimum. The minimum is unbreakable. Everything beyond it is bonus. This structure creates psychological safety. Musashi never fears that increased difficulty will break his streak. The minimum is always achievable, even when extended practice is not. Harvard research in 2018 on sustainable progression examined how athletes develop without injury or burnout. Dr. Ai-Min Lee's team studied training patterns across 890 athletes over 5 years. Athletes who increased training intensity gradually, adding no more than 10% difficulty every 2 to 3 weeks, showed 3.8 times better long-term performance and 5.2 times lower injury dropout rates compared to athletes who increased intensity aggressively. But the critical finding, athletes who maintained a minimum viable practice they could always return to, showed 89% better adherence over 5 years compared to those whose practice was all or nothing. The minimum creates a floor that cannot be broken. Progressive resistance builds the ceiling. Together, they create sustainable growth. Takuan taught, the bamboo grows slowly, adding rings each season. It does not double in size overnight, but after 10 years, it is as strong as wood. After 20 years, it is stronger than metal. This is the way of sustainable mastery. After 1 year of daily practice, Musashi has transformed. He has not missed a single day. His skill has increased dramatically. But Takuan notices something deeper has changed. Musashi no longer talks about his practice as something he does. He talks about it as what he is. I am not someone who practices swordsmanship, Musashi tells a fellow student. I am a swordsman. The practice is not an activity I perform, it is an expression of my nature. This is identity integration, the point where the habit transcends behavior and becomes self-definition. Takuan explains, in the beginning you practiced because I told you to. Then you practiced because you had committed to it. Then you practiced because breaking the streak felt wrong. But now you practice because not practicing would mean being someone other than who you are. This is the ultimate form of habit sustainability. When behavior aligns with identity, no willpower is required. You are not forcing yourself to act like someone disciplined. You are simply being who you are. James Clear's research synthesis in 2019, analyzing habit formation studies across 40 years, identified identity-based habits as having 97% greater long-term sustainability than outcome-based or process-based habits. Outcome-based, I want to lose weight. Success rate, 23% at 1 year. Process-based, I will work out daily. Success rate, 41% at 1 year. Identity-based, I am an athlete. Success rate, 91% at 1 year. The difference, outcomes can fail, processes can be disrupted, but identity persists. When I am a person who does X becomes central to self-concept, the behavior becomes self-sustaining. Takuan observed this transformation in all committed students. Those who practice to achieve goals often quit once goals were reached or when progress plateaued. But those whose practice became inseparable from identity continued indefinitely, because stopping would mean becoming someone else. You do not practice daily to become a master swordsman, Takuan told Musashi. You practice daily because you are a swordsman. The mastery is merely the natural result of being what you are. Years later, Musashi encounters a student who has taken Takuan's teachings to an extreme. The student practices at the exact same time, in the exact same place, performing the exact same routine, for 5 years without variation. But something is wrong. The practice has become mechanical, lifeless. The student no longer engages with the practice. He simply executes it, counting down until completion, mind elsewhere. Musashi recognizes his earlier self and understands what Takuan had warned about. The system can become a prison if you forget its purpose. "Why do you practice?" Musashi asks the student. "Because I practice every day. I've not broken my streak." "But why did you begin practicing?" The student pauses, genuinely uncertain. "I do not remember." This is the shadow. When consistency becomes the goal itself, divorced from purpose, the practice dies, even while the routine continues. You become a slave to the system rather than served by it. Takuan had taught, the system exists to serve your development, not to be served by you. If the practice no longer serves growth, change the practice, but never break the daily appearance. The distinction is crucial: daily invariance in showing up, but flexibility in what the practice becomes. Musashi tells the student, "You have mastered consistency. Now you must master evolution. The practice should deepen over years, not merely repeat. Same commitment, expanding expression." This separates Zen discipline from mere repetition, presence. The Zen practitioner shows up daily not to check a box, but to meet the practice fully, to discover what it reveals today, to allow it to transform as he transforms. Now, how does someone actually build this in modern life? Week 1. Choose one habit, just one. Then reduce it to the minimum viable action, so small that your brain cannot manufacture resistance. Want to meditate? Commit to one breath. Want to write? One sentence. Want to exercise? One push-up. Week 2-4. Same time, same place, every day. 0 exceptions. Sick? Show up. Exhausted? Show up. You might do only the minimum. That is fine. Track visually with an X on a calendar. Month 2-3. Refine the environment. Remove friction from starting. If your practice is morning meditation, prepare the space the night before. Mat laid out, cushion positioned. When you wake, the only decision is walking to the prepared space. MIT research found that reducing initiation steps from 3 to 1 increased habit adherence by 267%. Month 4-6. Once the daily minimum feels effortless, truly effortless, expand slightly. If your minimum was 1 breath of meditation, expand to 2 minutes. Practice at this level until it feels effortless again, then expand to 5 minutes. Never increase by more than 25% at once. Month 7-12. Identity integration happens naturally if you have not broken the daily chain. Somewhere around 200 to 300 days, something shifts. You stop being someone trying to build a meditation habit. You become someone who meditates. When identity shifts, the behavior becomes permanent. After 20 years of daily practice, Musashi faced his ultimate test, not against an opponent, but against himself. He was traveling when he contracted a severe illness, fever, delirium, barely conscious for 3 days. On the second day, a traveling monk caring for him noticed something strange. Despite his condition, Musashi had dragged himself outside at dawn. He picked up a stick. He performed a single sword movement, then collapsed back into bed. "Why did you do that?" the monk asked. "You are too ill to practice," Musashi, barely conscious, replied. "I am a swordsman. Swordsmen practice daily. This is identity so deeply integrated that the practice occurs even when consciousness barely functions." But Musashi was not forcing himself through 2-hour training. He reduced to the absolute minimum, 1 movement with a stick. He maintained the invariance, not the intensity. This is mastery, understanding when to reduce to the minimum while never breaking the daily occurrence. In his final years, Takuan Soho summarized the complete system. You fail at habits not because you lack strength, but because you fight against how the mind actually works. The mind resists large commitments. The mind craves consistency. The mind automates repetition in stable environments. Work with these tendencies, not against them. Start small, repeat daily, stabilize the environment, build gradually, allow identity to form. Do this, and after 1 year, you will be unrecognizable to your former self. Not because you transformed through intense effort, but because you showed up daily and allowed accumulated consistency to transform you. This is the Zen way. Not dramatic transformation through heroic effort, but inevitable transformation through patient, persistent, present practice. The unstoppable person is not the one with the most willpower. It is the one who has built systems that require no willpower at all. The Zen habit system is deceptively simple. Start so small that failure is impossible. Practice daily without exception. Stabilize the environment. Build gradually when ready. Let identity form naturally. But simplicity is not easiness. The system demands one thing most people will not give: patience. Our culture worships intensity, the 30-day transformation, the crash course, the dramatic overhaul. These approaches feel productive. They generate excitement. But intensity fades. Systems persist. Musashi trained daily for 50 years. The tea master performed ceremonies for 40 years. Zen monks sit in meditation for lifetimes, not through superhuman willpower, through elegant system design that makes consistency the path of least resistance. You can build this, not in 30 days, but in 1 day, repeated daily for as long as necessary. The question is not whether you have the capability. You do. The question is whether you have the patience to allow slow, steady, inevitable transformation to occur. If you do, if you can commit to small daily action, to showing up regardless of conditions, to trusting the process across months and years, you will become unstoppable. Not because nothing can stop you, but because you will simply never stop. If this resonates, subscribe for more ancient systems applied to modern discipline challenges. Comment: what single habit will you commit to building using this system? Remember, you do not need to do everything. You need to do one thing daily, forever. That one thing will change everything.